recording. Okay. I will call this special meeting of the Board of County Commissioners to order. It's May 5th at 4 p.m. and we have two commissioners present. Commissioner Cindy Regal, and we have Commissioner Michael Whitfield here, and Commissioner Bob Henich will be joining us in a few minutes. He went home to get on his computer.
I will second the motion.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I thought you just did that. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's get started. We have one main topic for today, and that is discussing the proposed Teton County public shooting range. And this is a project that's been in the works for several years, and we're excited to share with the public what is happening currently, where we're at in the development of a public shooting range here in our county. I will just review the outline of the meeting and wanted to let everyone know that we will be taking questions at the end. So we're going to have a few different people present, and if you can hold your questions to the end, we will do questions either by raising your hand and I will allow the attendees to directly ask the question, or you can put questions in the chat box. So we will be taking questions both ways. We have a team of presenters and I will let them introduce themselves, but the order of operations will be, we'll start with a presentation from representatives from the Bureau of Land Management. And that will be followed by me talking a little bit about the Teton County's kind of purpose and need for this project. And then our Public Works Director will be speaking about more specifics about the location that we're talking about and the basic site plan, example of potential facilities we might be developing on our public shooting range here in Teton County. And then we will have a presentation by Troy Buslaff, who has been working with a volunteer group of individuals who are going to be forming a nonprofit to help with development of the facility and management of the range. And then at the end, we're going to go back to the BLM and hear a little bit more about their process and the public scoping aspect of the proposal that's on the table. And they'll be getting into more detail about what that proposal is. And then finally, we'll have question and answer. So Daryl has the slideshow. We've combined all of our slides, so it should be pretty seamless. And I will pass the time over to our team in Idaho Falls at the BLM office. So why don't you all introduce yourselves and we can get started there.
Thank you very much, Cindy. I'm Jeremy Casterson. I'm the field manager of the Upper Snake Field Office of the BLM.
And I'm Becky Lizdauskas. I'm the realty specialist and the project lead for this project.
Hi, I'm Monica Zimmerman. I'm the outdoor recreation planner in this office.
Go ahead and kick us off there, Daryl. Next slide. Recreational shooting on public lands has been around for a long time. It's a very popular sport and has been gaining even more popularity. There's both a good way to go about it and a not good way to go about it, and we see plenty of both of them on BLM. Up top there, you see a dad helping his son sight in his rifle there for hunting season. And hopefully when he's done, he'll put those in the back of his truck and he'll be gone. And that's the type of safe and low impact target shooting we like to see. On the bottom left, however, is the type, unfortunately, we see quite a bit also. It seems to be popular to bring trash out or shoot at trash that's already out on public lands. TV monitors, computer monitors, those are all popular things that get brought out to shoot on public lands and then unfortunately left there. We call that trigger trash, and that's an increasing problem. We are also concerned about some of the safety aspects. Some recreational shooters haven't gone to hunter safety. They're putting the public in risk with the way they're shooting, as well as, BLM employees. So that's something we're concerned about. And then finally, one problem that's also increasing is wildfires started by shooting. Tannerite is being used as an exploding target, and unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of wildfires started by that, which really has the ability to impact resources as well as public safety. So we've been looking for ways to cater to this growing sport in a way that's safe and a way that protects our resources. And I think we have an opportunity to do that here. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is a background on the piece, on the parcel that Teton County is looking to locate the shooting range. It's just off Ards Road, west of Teutonia there. We have another map later on too that might show it a little better, but we've had our eye on this 40 acre parcel for a while because the target shooting already going on there. So if you look at that aerial photo on the bottom left of the slide there, you can see they're using that for using that for shooting already, where they're shooting to the west there on the side of a hill. It's actually a fairly safe location, and it's fairly cleaned up as well. The few times we've been there, we haven't seen any TV monitors there yet. So kudos to Teton County shooters for that. So, but and you can see some of the user created trails there that are kind of starting to spring up too around that use. So several years ago, as Cindy mentioned, Teton County approached us about the possibility of using that for a public shooting range. One thing that allows us to do that is that in our resource management plan, we've identified that parcel as for disposal, which means back in the 80s, we looked at all our parcels, and some of them we deemed would be appropriate to leave federal ownership under the right conditions. So this one has been identified for that. Next slide, please. So how are we actually going to transfer the land to Teton County if that's the way we decide to go? We would use the Recreation and Public Purpose Act. Usually when BLM exchanges land or sells land or does a land tenure action, it's a very long and expensive process. The RMPP Act allows us to do it quickly, relatively quickly, as well as cheaply for the entity that receives the land. So the act does have some guidelines that you have to stay within, like it has to be used for recreation or public purposes, and it can only be conveyed to a state or local government, as well as some nonprofits in some situations. So we do fit that situation and can use this act from 1927, I think, right? So it's been around a while. BLM has used this act all over the nation to convey parcels to local governments or states for historic monuments or schools, fire and law enforcement facilities, landfills, parks, and shooting ranges. So this act was kind of made for an action like this. So let me back up and talk about where we are in that process. And I don't know, maybe we're halfway done, maybe not quite.
Yeah.
But Teton County did submit an application. They submitted a draft plan of development and a site plan with that, which the county's going to show you here in a minute, and the required $100 application fee. So as I mentioned, it's fairly cheap. And then the county did a mineral potential report. We need one of those done just to ensure that we're not giving away valuable minerals, and we're not. And the other thing we need to do is a Class 3 cultural inventory to ensure that we're not giving away any important cultural resources, which we also are not. So we were happy the county was proactive in getting those two steps done. So currently, we're working on an EA, or environmental assessment, and that's a NEPA document, National Environmental Policy Act. The NEPA process is public involved, so that's why we're scoping with the public today. We'll also have another opportunity for the public to be involved in this process. And then through that NEPA Act, we identify all the different impacts of our action that the action would take. So we're in the process of doing that, and we'll talk to you a little bit about that at the end of the slideshow as well. So one more thing that needs to be done is a hazardous material assessment needs to be done before we convey that property. And then we need to finish that NEPA, that EA. And then we'll publish something called a Notice of Realty Action in the Federal Register. And that spurs another 45-day official public comment period. And governor's offices and local officials and tribes and all interested parties will be notified of that. They'll have another chance to comment at that point. And then finally, we'll be able to issue the patent to Teton County and update the public records. The patent will have a limited reverter clause, which is very rare that we would need to use this, and only in certain circumstances, like the county decided they would stop using it for a public shooting range. We have that in there, but really wouldn't anticipate ever using it. So this would be patented to the county for that use for as long as they're going to continue that use. All right, and with that, I'm going to kick this over to Cindy Regal, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, Jeremy. I am helping someone troubleshoot Zoom right now. Hopefully they can get in. I'm just going to talk really briefly about why the county has identified a shooting range as a priority. We have, when I first became a commissioner, it was 2015, and just prior to that, there was an adoption or a process and development of a recreation and public access master plan for the county. And that was adopted, I believe, in 2014. And one of the things that was identified in that master plan was the need for a shooting range. Personally, I have children who are hunters and do hunter safety. I have taken hunter safety myself, but it was years and years ago. And have friends involved in teaching those hunter safety classes. And it's really important that the kids who are learning to hunt do it in a safe environment and also have an opportunity to handle the guns that they'll be using for hunting at, a safe shooting range and practice their shooting. So if we want to get children, youth, even adults into the sport of hunting, which I think is really important, we need to provide a safe place to do that. I also have been in situations that weren't so safe. I was one time mountain biking in the Horseshoe Canyon area, and I arrived at the parking lot, and there was a family who was actually shooting quite safely. There was probably 5-year-olds to grandparent age people within this group. They were wearing ear protection and had a target set up and appeared to be operating very safely, but they were operating and practicing in a parking lot and shooting a target that was just below the mountain bike trail I was about to go ride on. So that made me pretty nervous as well. And I know many other people have had experiences like that. They were super polite. I said, could you please stop shooting? Because I'm going to ride that trail above there. And they said, sure. And I went on my way. I trusted that they were not going to shoot while I was riding my bike above them. And that worked just fine. But that's not always the case with these types of interactions and conflicts with recreational users on public land. We know that the site's currently used as an informal, in perhaps in some situations unsafe shooting range. And I believe that, and the county believes it's important to have that more controlled environment so everyone does feel safe when they go there to use it. Also for the kind of neighborly, the neighborly way to operate a shooting range, I should say, is with some pretty clear hours. So everyone knows when people will be there shooting and when they won't. And that's another aspect of what the county thinks is important in developing this range. And then finally, I also wanted to mention that the 4-H Shooting Sports Club has become more and more popular, and they've been taking 4-H youth, the instructors, they've been taking them to an old county gravel pit. And it's just, again, it's not an ideal location to learn shooting sports, and again, hunter safety. So that's my little spiel. Happy to answer questions at the end, and I'm going to pass it over to Daryl Johnson, our Public Works Director.
Thanks, Cindy. My name is Daryl Johnson. I'm the Public Works Director for Teton County. I have sort of been acting as the point of contact for Teton County, working with the commissioners, working with the BLM, working with this special interest group that's interested in developing this. Well, we've finally identified a site, but developing a shooting range. It's been a popular ask for quite a while now, like Cindy said. So first of all, talk about the location. We've got a vicinity map here for those of you who aren't familiar with where this site is. It's currently being used as an unofficial, unsupervised shooting range. I believe the sheriff even uses it, but quite popular with the locals. It's just on the west side of the Teton River, just past Harrop's Bridge. So Ards Road comes out on State Highway 33, right around where that scenic view turnout is as you're coming into Teton Valley. And it cuts across over to 8,000 West, and about halfway between there, or 2/3 of the way between Highway 33 and 8,000 are a couple of pieces of BLM property. And we're talking about the 40 acres that's on the north side of Ards Road there. So as part of this, Jeremy mentioned the Recreation Public Purposes Act. We submitted an application or an ask for the BLM to consider this opportunity for us. We've been working with them, and as part of that and other grant applications that we've applied for, we developed what is called a preliminary site plan or a concept plan. And we haven't developed the site too much. There's a lot of components that are going to come into play in terms of design and requirements. I'll get into a few of those here in a second. But the layout we put together kind of takes advantage of the hillside, that similar to what's going on currently, taking advantage of the backstop that's 30, 40, 50 feet high. And we've developed a plan that we're proposing a long range or a rifle range that sort of runs from southeast to northwest into the hillside. And we think we can get a range up to 300 yards with the current site the way it is. And then you'll see on this site plan over along the east side, we've proposed a short range, a pistol range, potentially a shotgun range or archery range during different days, during different times, but up to 100 yards shooting into the hillside once again. Some of the amenities that we're proposing for the site, or that we've identified and are talking about in terms of developing the site. One is berming, and we've talked about earth berms, shooting into dirt and having dirt, I guess, side rails, for lack of a better term, in each of those ranges. So you're not one, for instance, the long range isn't putting the short range shooters in danger. Another component to that is we're required to submit and get approved a lead containment, a lead management plan. And talking with folks that have developed these sites in the area, they said that the earth berms lend themselves very positively towards lead containment and lead cleanup. So another reason why we're considering that, and another reason why this site hasn't developed more than what we're really seeing or what we're presenting here. Other things we've talked about, shooting tables, covered shooting tables, get the shooters out of the elements or somewhat out of the elements and provide them tables for their equipment, their gear, and their guns. Talked about developing that as the site develops. I'm not promising that everything we talk about today is going to be in place from the day we open, but things that we've talked about, things that we would like to pursue funding for. Other amenities, perimeter fencing. I don't know if we've talked about that or anybody else talked about that, but we want to have a secure site. We want to have a site that we can close outside of hours of operation. So we're proposing perimeter fencing with a gate that would be locked, again, outside of the hours that we identify, hours of operation. Check-in office would be nice to have, office supplies, to have our site officer, a place out of the elements, and ability to store things and be somewhat organized. And then the other thing that we've identified is a vault toilet. We've been somewhat successful in getting grants for vault toilets in other areas throughout the valley. Be nice to add that amenity as well. One of the things that we've talked about a little bit is this public-private partnership. Going to turn the time over to Troy here in a second, but this really caught some momentum when this group, the core of this group, came to the commissioners, came to the county and said, let's try to develop this. And that's what led us to learning more about this Recreation and Public Purposes Act, submitting for the transfer of ownership of the land, and also submitting grant applications for the development. Feedback on that, our grant application was well received. We applied to the Fish and Game for a somewhat large amount to start developing, and Fish and Game loved the idea. They just said that until the land is in our name, they don't want to commit funds for the development of the site until we're the owners of the site. So gonna circle back on that opportunity once we have this Public Purposes Act processed and the land is in the county's name. Partners came to us. They said, we're interested in developing a not-for-profit organization in helping you guys develop these sites or this site, and been very instrumental in working with me, helping develop the preliminary layout that you see here, and also looking for other opportunities. The BLM put us in touch with some very knowledgeable folks in the area that have developed shooting ranges in the past, have managed shooting ranges, owned shooting ranges. So a combination of resources through the BLM and others, and this not-for-profit organization that's getting developed. We've got quite a bit of momentum going forward, a lot of interest and a lot of support for the development of this site. So with that, I'll turn the time over to Troy and let him talk a little bit about the development of the partnership.
Thank you, Daryl. My name is Troy Bootsloff. I'm a retired city manager with 30 years experience managing small and medium-sized cities. I'm currently serving as the interim city administrator for the city of Victor. As an aside, as a city manager, I've worked with BLM in the past in placing police shooting ranges on BLM property. So I'm familiar with the process, and this is actually a great opportunity for government and for private interests to partner up and provide a great facility that the public can use and learn from. I serve on a planning committee with several other individuals, and at this time I'd like to introduce those individuals. Jeff Klausman, Sue Muncaster, Tim Waters, Fletcher White, Jeff Hogginson, and Hannah Leonard. We're also joined by Commissioner Regal and of course Daryl Johnson on this planning committee, and we've been planning out kind of our next steps. Right now, we're working with a local attorney who is volunteering his time to help us form this nonprofit corporation that was discussed. And really the purpose of this nonprofit is twofold. First, government agencies are not good managers of these types of facilities. Having been in this process for a long time, we really need an entity that's a little bit better suited. And so having a nonprofit entity to provide operational oversight and maintenance to create a safe shooting environment open to the general public is really what we're trying to accomplish through the formation of this nonprofit corporation. Second, the cost to fence the site, berm it for safety and lead containment, build the shooting bays, the ancillary structures like the restrooms, the office, a possible education training building will likely exceed in excess of $100,000. And by forming this nonprofit corporation, we would be eligible to apply for a number of different grant opportunities to fund its construction. Daryl talked about the Fish and Game opportunity. It is actually one of the few opportunities where you can get a sizable amount of money for the development of a range, and it is only open to nonprofit corporations or government agencies who provide a public shooting range. So by forming this public shooting range using a nonprofit, it will put us in a position to be able to apply for this particular grant. In addition, there's several other grant opportunities for organizations such as the National Rifle Association, Midway, which produces ammunition, who also will only deal with nonprofit corporations to fund those entities for range development purposes. So really that is a compelling reason why a nonprofit needs to be formed in order to be eligible for some of these grant opportunities. Otherwise, it will have to be public funded, and that would be a huge cost that the county would have to bear. Once the nonprofit is established, we will then form a board of directors. That board of directors will work with the county to prepare some sort of agreement, whether it be a memorandum of understanding or a use agreement that will detail the development, the operations, and the maintenance of the range. And that process will likely take several months to accomplish. And after that MOU has been approved, at that point in time, the nonprofit can start looking for these grant opportunities. As I mentioned, the Fish and Game one being our primary interest, it's only offered once a year, usually at the end of each year. And so if we're successful in getting this nonprofit formed and the land is transferred to the county, and we're able to reach an agreement with the county to basically operate this proposed range, it's likely that at the end of this year, we can make application to the Department of Fish and Game and hopefully receive grant funding to develop the range in the near future. The current situation at Ards Road, as Commissioner Regal had talked about, is not ideal. Due to the lack of supervision, there's a greater risk of serious accident, which could result in injury or death. Furthermore, the lack of any sort of containment feature by putting berms and other containment features really create a problem from an environmental standpoint. And so by having a range out there, we will be able to help contain that and mitigate any risk of environmental harm. In closing, I just want to say that there's really three primary benefits to having a supervised shooting range. One, it's going to provide a safe and controlled environment for individuals to learn, shoot, and improve skills. Second, it will enhance public safety and reduce injuries by providing gun and hunter safety courses. And third, it will mitigate the environmental damage through lead containment and mitigation strategies. And with that, I will turn it over to Jeremy and company at the BLM.
Thanks a lot, Troy. As part of our public scoping process, we look at a suite of different issues that we need to look at. If you can go to the next slide. Like every project we do, we assign an interdisciplinary team to look at the project. So that includes like Becky and Monica, as well as an archaeologist and a hydrologist and a geologist and all the different disciplines that we would need to look at the impacts of this project. So we have a list of issues that we could possibly look at. One of the jobs of the public is to identify the issues that are critical to them. So we would love your input on which resources we should look at. You know, we will look at everything from soil, obviously, to wildlife, vegetation, as well as some of the existing uses on the parcel. So these are all things that would be considered in our environmental assessment and ultimately in my decision to transfer the land. So we'd love to take some input on that, as well as any comments on the action. I did want to also just mention that lead is on our radar. You've heard a couple people talk about it already. And the US EPA put out a document entitled Best Management Practices for Lead at Outdoor Shooting Ranges. And that document, I think, is really going to help the county design the shooting range, apply those appropriate BMPs, and implement an integrated lead management plan. So that's an issue we've got on our radar as well. Next slide, please. So we'd love to hear from the public on this. If you could send those comments to Becky at that email address there. And we can email that to anybody who's interested in it later. We also have this project posted on ePlanning, and that's where BLM houses all its projects that are available for the public to look at. And we're asking for these comments by mid-June, June 15th, I think. That would be the best to get them by then, but we have a little bit of ways ahead of us on this project. So if we get it a little longer or a little after that, we should be able to consider it. So that's how we'd love to hear from you, but also if you have any comments now, we'd like to hear them as well. So I think that takes us to our last slide. Any of the panel members here, hopefully will be able to answer your questions. Otherwise, we'll definitely find an answer for you. So thank you very much for coming and listening.
Okay, I am happy to call on anyone who has a question. The best way to do this is going to be just hit the raise your hand symbol at the bottom of your screen, and we can take questions or comments or ideas.
So I see one comment here, Cindy, from Bill. And
Okay.
he's asking, does the land transfer include the other BLM parcel? And he's talking about an 80-acre parcel, I believe, to the southwest of the 40-acre parcel, which we're talking about. And the answer to that question is no. That 80-acre parcel will remain in BLM ownership. Good question, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I am not seeing that question. Okay, maybe I'm in the wrong place. Gordon Hanson, go ahead. I'm going to promote you to speak. So you're on.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, first off, I would like to know who the special interest group is that you're speaking of.
Well, we named the individuals who have been helping out with the project, but again, I think Troy mentioned that there will be formation of a formal board. So
Okay,
it will be open.
so when you said special interest group, it isn't just one special interest group.
No, it actually, Daryl said that, and it's not an official like group that is formed. It's an informal group of individuals who have been helping kind of brainstorm ideas and basically helping the county figure out, different aspects of the process. And then I think Daryl and Troy and I all mentioned that in terms of the long-term management of the facility, the county's really interested in partnering with a nonprofit to help with the fundraising, facility development, and management. So if any of the other panelists want to chime in on that question, go for it.
Okay, I have one more question.
Was that, did that answer that one?
Well, sort of, it's okay. I'm assuming that it will be more organized later on down the road as
Yes.
far as that's concerned.
Yes.
So my understanding is that the county is going to operate it, and I'm understanding that there will be a fee to use it. Is that correct?
Let me jump
Go
in on
ahead,
that,
Troy.
Cindy.
Yep.
The actual operator would be the nonprofit. The county will own the property. They will enter into an agreement with the nonprofit, and the nonprofit will provide for the operation and maintenance. We will be doing fundraising, obviously, to keep the range operational, but we probably will have to charge a nominal fee for day use of the range. Several other nonprofit corporations that run public shooting ranges do charge. It's usually, again, a very nominal fee, and it's used to basically pay for the operational cost of operating a range, because there will be costs. There'll be everything from general maintenance, to possibly providing equipment to the volunteers who are going to be working the range, like a trained safety officer who will be needed to be there at all times to make sure the range is kept safe. And so those will be the types of costs that we will have to look at and ultimately determine what level of fee will need to be charged for the use of the facility.
Okay. I'm a longtime resident of the county, and I think this sounds like a great idea, frankly. But if the fee's very high, knowing the shooters in our valley, they will find someplace else to shoot, and that would be my only concern. But I do think it's a great idea, and I think that the nonprofit running it is a great idea. And I also think getting grants for it is a great idea. So that's all the comments that I have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And I would just reiterate, one of the county's goals is to make it super affordable. And we don't know what that structure is going to look like yet, but it's a public shooting range is meant to be accessible for everybody. So if there is, you know, someone who can't afford the fees, or, you know, there's some circumstance that, you know, doesn't allow them to get to that shooting range, we'll have accommodations for that. That's really important to the county.
This is Becky from the BLM, and I will just say, and I don't know exactly what the verbiage is, but in the RNPP Act, there is also some language about fees. And so the fees do have to be affordable. And I know, let's say, for example, if it was a campground, you would have to charge what the going rate is for a campground. You know, if it's $10 to overnight camp, then what you're getting it for, you couldn't charge like $45. So there is, I don't know the language, but there is a cap and a limit to like a fair market value for that type of use.
Right.
We got a comment from Sue about affordability as well, but I'm assuming we kind of addressed that.
Yeah, I think we probably hit that one as well. Thank you, Sue.
Sue, I think she's Teton.
Yeah, she is. Or she's Wild.
I'm just going to promote her to talk to see,
Okay.
because she has been involved. Sue, if you want to speak, go for it, in terms of affordability and or the informal committee that will eventually be turned into a nonprofit board.
Oh, this is Tammy with the 4-H.
Oh, hi, Tammy.
You undid for Sue. I want to see more shotgun stuff put in if possible, just because I do have kids that want to go to state and they've got to have the trap, the ski, and this year they're doing the sporting clay. So we're making plenty of trips to Idaho Falls to learn those skills. So
Tammy works in the county's 4-H office. So she,
we have 15 shotgun kids. We put a limit on the rifle kids at 25, and we also put a limit on the archery this year. So we're at 30, but
And
I've
you're-
had up to 60 archery kids before. And we've had 3 or 4 go to nationals before. So
and that's max. So you're maxed out in all those clubs?
yes, because of volunteers.
Okay.
Yes.
And are you using the gravel pit at all, or are you primarily going to Idaho Falls?
No, we actually was going to start Tuesday night, but because of the weather, we had one more indoor, but we will be out at the Bates Gravel Pit every Tuesday from now till the end of our 1st of August.
Okay. Thanks so much, Tammy. I'm glad you're on. Oh, here's Sue. Stay wild. Okay. You are, Sue, you're promoted to panelist if you want to add in any additional comments.
Okay, I think I unmuted myself. Not sure if you could see me. Sorry. Stay Wild is the Jacksonville Travel Tourism Board's Zoom account that I use. But super excited, great presentation, affordability was answered. I did want to add that what I heard from the question about the special use groups was, you know, are we funded by, do we think this is going to be funded by the NRA or for other groups like that? I think that might be a question that is in the public mind that spoke to. But otherwise, I'm super excited to be involved, and this group, informal group, is more than happy to work with anybody who wants to join us, as long as we keep it not unruly numbers.
Well, I could probably take Sue's question on the NRA funding. NRA has some particular requirements. You do have to be an NRA range, so we will have to make application to be a certified NRA range, which means we'll have to have certified range safety officers, which I am one of. We will need to have more range safety officers to make this a safe range. And so anybody who wishes to get involved in becoming a range safety officer, I would certainly have you call, or you can call Cindy directly, or you can reach out to any one of the planning committee members, myself, Sue, and the others that I mentioned, and let us know your interest. There is a regular session of NRA certified programs at the Eagle Rock School in Idaho Falls. That's the one I attended just in the last 30 days. It's excellent training. I would encourage anybody who wants to learn more about gun safety or wants to become a certified range safety officer to go through that training, and then you can join us in providing a safe range once this range is developed.
Thanks, Troy. Does anyone see any other questions?
I'd like to ask a question.
Yep. Go ahead.
Direct this to the BLM. You're part of the process, Jeremy, is to do a hazardous materials analysis. And I'm wondering, since this site has been used, is being used currently, will the BLM mitigate any lead that it finds before it's transferred to the county, or how will that be handled?
Well, I know we're going to at least do some baseline measurements of what's there, Michael. So we're going to have some soil samples from the area where they're currently shooting, as well as some baseline samples from where the shooting is proposed. And I would imagine that if it's currently at an unsafe level, we would make sure that that's cleaned up before the land is transferred. However, we have done some lead testing around our field office at some popular shooting sites, and we haven't been anywhere near the levels where EPA gets concerned. So I guess I would hope that that's the situation here as well. But if it's not, that would need to be addressed before transferring the parcel.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mike, that's one of the reasons we do them. When we acquire property, it's actually, we have to by law do it. And then BLM has the policy when we dispose of property to do basically the same thing and check that, because, you know, we don't want to be giving away contaminated property and then have issues come up. So yeah, it definitely will be looking at that. And as far as mitigation, yeah, we'll have to look at that once the baseline is done.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm sure the county will be tracking the BMPs that you provided us to make sure we're managing it well, but just want to know what condition we're going to obtain it in. So thank you.
You bet.
Do we have any? Any other
Mr. Gillis is looking to.
All right,
Yes.
back to attendees. Here we go. Lyndon Gillis, you're with us now.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody involved in this. As a resident of Teton County, I find myself at the Ards Road range, quote unquote range, pretty regularly. And it's been really disheartening to see the amount of trash that people leave. And, you know, myself and a few friends take it upon ourselves to go out there, you know, whenever we do, and bring a couple 5-gallon buckets and clean up lead, clean up whatever we can. So I think this is a great opportunity for Teton Valley to have a safe place for people to go enjoy and practice their rifle. I don't know if archery was mentioned in this as well, but rifle, hopefully shotgun, pistol. So I just want to say thank you to Teton County and the BLM for the legwork in making this possible for for the residents here to have a safe and enjoyable experience.
Thanks so much. Thanks for joining us too. And thanks for cleaning
Thank-
up.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
You too. All right.
No other comments on the chat line or no other hands raised, Cindy, from the attendees?
I just saw one in the Q&A. So this one just popped up. Will the shooting range be accessible and open year round? Has there been any discussion about winter use such as possible biathlon range?
Well, I
That's a
can
good
maybe take
idea.
it from the operational standpoint, and that would be, obviously, we're going to do whatever the county wishes us to do with respect to the management of their property. So if the county's going to allow for year-round operation, clearly we're going to make accommodations for that. I do believe, however, it's probably going to have some limitations just in terms of how many days a week the range can be open, because it takes a lot of people to operate a safe range. And so we will need volunteers. And if we don't have volunteers, we won't be able to maintain a very extensive schedule. So it may be limited to Fridays and weekends only, depending upon how many volunteers are available to be range safety officers to make sure the range is always manned by a certified range safety officer. If you look at some examples in the surrounding area, a lot of the managed and supervised ranges are only open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so we will have to work with the county to determine what kind of schedule they would want us to be open. And then ultimately, it's going to come down to the number of people we have available to be there to make sure the range is a safe place to be.
Sue, did you want to say something as well?
No, but that just made me think of, I guess a question nobody's answered yet.
I would say on the biathlon, I think it's a great idea, certainly worth exploring in this location or another location. And I know there's people in the community that are, experienced biathletes, and I know there's some laser guns floating around somewhere. If nothing else, I think we'd have an opportunity to set that up somewhere. But it would be interesting to see if it could fit into the range plan, and we will certainly keep it in mind as we move forward. What was your question, Sue?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sounds like you're out in the wind.
I am sorry. That's why I'm out. The idea of like at the Jackson Hole Jackson Hole shooting range, where if you're a member and have gone through certain training, you can access it without a range master being there. Just throwing that into something that needs to be talked about.
Yep, absolutely. Makes sense.
You got a hand raised by Bill?
Okay. Bill, you're on.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I guess after that last comment about having to have a range master there,
Mhm.
that we're kind of setting this thing up for failure, because people are going to show up all during the week and somehow they're going to get in there and do it. It seems like that there's got to be a way that it can be open without having a range master there, just like they spoke of having people either join the club or get certified to do it, whatever the case. But I think absolutely it's got to be open 7 days a week, 12 hours a day or more, are available with whatever controls for this thing to really fly. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. That might have been our last question or comment. I guess I would just, in response to that comment, I would just say we are in such the preliminary phases. So all of these comments are really important to consider as we sort of move forward with the land transfer. And then the structure of management and the facility development will, obviously come next, but all of those details haven't really been fleshed out yet. So we appreciate, all the input on that. Okay, I think we can end the meeting if we don't have any other questions. Does any of the panelists have questions for each other? All right, well, thanks, everybody.
I
Thanks,
move to
Cindy.
adjourn.
What? Let's see, Commissioner Whitfield moved to adjourn, and I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Henich has been with us, but just listening in. Thanks for being here, and we'll be in touch. Take care.
Thank you much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Because I did notice.